fell to my death. I didn't mind it, but I did file a bug on it. I deserved that kill.
You survived and you died.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That time.
What was the text on your bug? Was it like, should not have killed, this is such BS, engineers better fix this? Was that your bug text?
You've been reading my bug reports, haven't you? But that test is now over, and it's funny playing in the internal playtest, because that particular build had been locked several weeks before we actually started playing it. At this point,
that's actually what I meant when I
old.
was talking about it being old.
Yeah,
because we actually have to
there's a difference. They have to lock code at some sort of stable place so that they have some.
Yeah, but it's funny because even that map has changed a little bit. The skybox has changed a little bit. I don't know if we can talk about it, but I'll talk about it. Cut it if we can't. Yeah. But they've done a little bit more so that when you're on a different side, you're seeing kind of different things. One side's more of a star field, and one side's more of the kind of gas around and clouds and stuff on the upper atmosphere of this planet. And actually does a really good job of differentiating like space side, cloud side, versus before it was just kind of asteroid side. Which side is that? Right. They all have asteroids on them. And it's funny how I say little things, but I'm sure it was a lot of effort on the artist's part. But little things like that, they make a huge difference on how a map can play. And that's always been fun for me since I've been at the studio, and just seeing how that kind of iterative process kind of kicks off and kind of continues on.
Yeah, it's all feedback driven, right? Like if people are constantly complaining that they're getting lost in different parts of the map, then you're looking at how do we put points of interest to orient people, and it's just a constant process of feedback and iteration to get to the best possible experience.
Yeah, and in particular, I mean, we'll talk a little bit about, I mean, obviously we have more weapons in the game than the beloved battle rifle we showed off at Spring Showcase. And, there was a subset of those in this particular internal network test. In particular, Frank's favorite weapon, the assault rifle, is kind of beefy right now.
Yeah, I've convinced Josh that it should be the primary starting weapon for every mode. and honestly, like when if you drop a weapon, it turns into an AR when it hits the ground. So other people can only pick up the AR.
And there are thousands of voices screaming out in terror right now.
Just
ARs. But honestly, more often than not, I'm using it. Because it does. I mean, you still have to kind of burst fire it. Like if you knew how to use kind of ARs in the past, you don't want to just hold the trigger down. But burst firing it, and it's pretty powerful. And it sounds amazing. I mean, I think in general, if people could have any takeaways, especially I know that we had some special community members who actually came in and we demoed to them at Spring Showcase, and they got a chance to actually hear, just a weapon being fired, not in a little video in a flash window on the internet that's been compressed and recompressed.
No, the sound makes a huge difference. And I mean, we found this, Tajin and his team have overhauled all of the sounds throughout the game. We constantly test weapons, and we found that just going from one sound to another sound and no other change in a weapon can actually take a weapon from being kind of bottom of the pack in terms of perception of players to the very top of the pack. Because it makes it, I mean, it's literally half the experience, the whole soundscape. So, that has made the AR really, really satisfying.
And it's true of weapons that aren't traditionally associated with visceral sounds as well. There are weapons in the game. It's not a big secret that the Covenant's back, but there are Covenant objects and weapons that now sound. They still sound alien, they still sound scary, and they still sound Covenant, but they sound way more impactful.
There was one I was afraid to use that sounded so deadly. I thought it was going to blow up in my hand.
Yeah.
Yep. Frank just did a hand motion. Yeah. It wasn't rude this time. That's a nice change. But anytime we show stuff like this to the public, there's always like, I just want more. When are you guys going to talk about more? And, we're in a little bit of a dip where we're not necessarily talking about too much right now, but we did have some very special guests in the studio recently, and they got to see a little bit more. And we can't go into too much detail, but we did get a chance to show them significantly more than just the multiplayer this time around.
Yeah, we showed the campaign for the first time.
Yeah, a lot of special guests.
Yeah, and so that was actually a lot of fun. I know that Jessica, or AKA BS Angel, you might know her, in a recent bulletin sort of talked about that we recently did the same demo that we showed the press. We actually showed here internally at a all-hands meeting, kind of everyone in the studio getting together on a Friday afternoon. And that was a lot of fun for me because I'd seen the demo, had played the demo, but my headphones weren't working when I played it. So that was the first time I'd actually heard I'd seen it, but I hadn't heard it. And just the work that Tajin and his team's doing it's pretty remarkable, and it was a lot of fun.
Half the experience.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
In some cases, more than half.
Yeah.
In many cases, more.
And it was fun, really, just seeing people throughout, just kind of watching, just having big grins on their face. And I know that there was a lot of effort put into that demo, because anytime we're showing the game publicly, you have to get certain sections done earlier than they would be otherwise, and further along than they already are. And it was, I know it was a lot of hard work, and a lot of people worked really hard to get that together and looking as amazing as it did. And
yeah, I don't know if people understand the process of getting demos together early in the development process, but it's kind of like a lot of developing a game is like having Lego pieces all over the floor. You know, people are painstakingly, you know, painting all this detail into each individual piece, or whatever you want to use as an analogy, and then you kind of bring it all together towards the end. And so when you want to assemble something to show earlier than you are ideally intending, it takes a lot of effort from the team to bring it together. But the reward is you get to actually experience the final experience the way that players will.
And that's been really fun. Every now and again, you know, I'll pop a build and just check out other levels and stuff. And it's always fun to see as things start coming in and you see a level you haven't seen in a month or so. And it just, well, there was one in particular I checked out recently that I just had to like get everyone in my area. I was like, look what just got in there.
Use some codes. Which level?
Can you mime?
Can you mime what you're doing? Are you doing this?
I'll say 7.
You're gonna have. I mean, I get numerically, but what
the
portion?
The opening bit where you're doing a chunk of the moving. Man, people listening to this are gonna be so upset.
What is going on?
Yeah.
I will say that I'm watching a really bad mime. It was dirty, actually. I think that was
He's doing a dirty mime.
Yeah.
That's the correct way to do a mime. No one wants to do a mime.
You know, for the
mimed
team,
the bubble shield. That would make sense.
for the team who's you know, just working so hard right now, it's really hard sometimes to see how all the pieces do fit together, to Josh's analogy. And it's definitely a light at the end of the tunnel when you see something polished into the place where we want it to get, and suddenly it's an experience and not just a bunch of content that's been put together. So I think it's been really awesome for the team to have kind of finally gotten things in a demo to a place where we can show things publicly. And then obviously some of the anecdotal responses we got coming out of the visits we had and what we saw at Showcase has been really positive. Yeah. And for the team, that's just fuel, right?
Although will say in the all hands meeting last week, my favorite moment was, we showed in the making of that we're doing kind of, full performance capture. And there was a character in the game that they were testing where they had taken the face that they had scanned in of one of our sandbox designers.
Unholy.
And it put this particular gentleman on this character's body. And maybe one day.
Can we not say who the character is? Is it any surprise that Cortana appears in our game? So they had taken one of our very manly male sandbox designers and taken his face, which is actually going to be used for one of the Marines, and put that in place of Cortana's face. It was really, literally one of the creepiest things I've ever seen.
It was horrible.
But people started actually calling out to turn it off.
Yeah.
Just turn it off.
Amazing technology should not be used to do things like that.
It started with turn it off, but then it turned.
Yeah. Then, and no one's looked at Matt the same way ever since.
It was like, it started with like, just revulsion. That is the worst. And then
something interesting.
Something about him/her/it.
Disgusting.
And then the crying game started.
That's right.
Yeah. Like I don't really have too much.
A lot, aren't you?
No. Yeah. I'm trying to think about a transition from the crying game into
I do
whatever else.
Kenneth made a comment in the press visit about the crying game, which was you can only see the crying game once without that surprise.
Not for Mr. Ellis.
No.
I'd seen Ace Ventura before the crying game, so Ace Ventura spoiled the crying game for me because I had just someone to explain what was that all about. I was a youngster when that movie came out, so forget I'm a child. Yeah. So I guess the good news for people who are complaining that, as they always do, that they always want more information, that they'd like us to live stream the game every day.
Yep.
But there's more information on the way, and in the not too distant future. Yeah. Not many sleeps.
2 sleeps.
Yeah.
There's going to be little incremental things happening, and then bigger things happening after that. So
and what I'm looking forward to is just kind of seeing, what the reaction to this most recent visit was, because, obviously we showed a lot more than we did previously. Like I said, like Kiki had said, we've heard good things, but
we talked about a lot more. So it wasn't just sort of showing stuff we'd already.
And it wasn't just campaign.
Yep, we definitely shared.
That was the first time.
Information, new information.
Yeah, we talked about. I mean, we talked a bit at Showcase about how we're changing multiplayer and really involving story, and this was the first time that we were able to actually talk about that in.
Clarify it and show examples.
And kind of give more of the whole picture and how everything sort of fits together.
Which was exciting.
Yeah. And
there will be more pretty pictures.
Yes.
That is for sure.
And sounds.
Yes. And other things. So, but I think that's a good place to stop this particular episode, because I don't know that we have too much more we can talk about.
But I thought we were going to talk about the DMR.
We could ramble on.
We could.
Oh, did that just...
Oh,
no.
Spoiler.
And
so I do want to go back.
DMR or VR?
They both
have their
really
uses.
Different purpose. I found the DMR is really, really useful for taking people out in midair, but that's probably just a personal preference. But
no, that's actually true.
I want to go back in
mind.
time. Yeah, it sounds right.
Yeah.
But I want to go back in time to when I said the word bubble shield when we're talking about mimes. There's no bubble shield in the game.
No.
Just putting that out there. It's gone, because I say bubble shield. That means there's a bubble shield.
I thought that when you said that.
Yeah,
I was now we have to go build a bubble shield.
But we said, I can't forget what the thing I just said was. Oh, never mind.
You were talking about the DMR.
The DMR.
Oh.
What? Oh,
you wanted us to say it as well?
It was just jokes.
But, you'll be hearing more about it in the very near future. We're going to have a very special April episode coming up, probably by the time you listen to this, in just a couple of weeks, that we'll have some new guests that you haven't seen or possibly heard from before.
And we'll be able to talk about significantly more by then.
Yes.
Oh, and
at that point,
I did promise that we would have some Halo 4 music, but not this time, because the audio team's doing some work. They wanted to tweak some stuff, but maybe next time would be a good...
We were also going to talk about Journey, your Journey experience.
Oh my God, Journey.
In the Tonga room.
Well,
we're missing so much.
There's so much.
We're running out of time. I'm happy to keep...
We took 10 minutes to
I'm happy to
talk
keep
about
recording, but I'm looking out for your schedules. Me, I just sit at my desk and type away all day. I'm not actually
your desk?
doing anything. No, but it would be kind of sweet.
This is like some.
That looks like a USB to USB
mail to
link
mail USB.
Well, I think that's a Requiem for a Dream USB stick.
Yeah.
What?
Ow.
That just looks wrong.
I was just thinking about Clint Mansell's Haunting soundtrack.
Took me to a dark place.
And Shooter McGavin on TV. And on that note, we'll see you in a couple, or you'll hear from us again in a couple of weeks in April.
And on that bombshell.
Yes.
Thanks everyone for listening, and don't forget that you can of course subscribe via iTunes, Zune, just RSS. If you do, please leave reviews in any of those spots. And let us know you're listening. If there are things that you'd like us to do different.
Yeah, they do. They want us to say more.
Nattering on.
Okay. Oh, cool. I think this is a good chance to go ahead and just talk about the story of the game.